Welcome to Smokey Reacts. I'm your journalist, and on this one, we are continuing my research into uh, divided and damaged, well, not into divided, into the Northern Ireland, Ireland situation, all of that. They don't really cover that in America too well. And then I see that without a VPN, I wouldn't be able to view this currently because I be having my VPN everywhere else, and the last place I had it was UK, and that it was like that's just not viewable over there. So when I upload this, it might take a minute to actually come out because I'm gonna have to fight the copyright on it because there might visibility block it in the UK, but make it visible everywhere else. So that might be an issue, but I will eventually get this to you guys. However, I did want to cover this one because I maybe watched like maybe the first 5 minutes. I was like, it's actually providing real information and with as much impartial bias as possible. Not as possible, just it seems a little bit more impartially biased due to the language being better. So, with that said, thank you very much for joining me. Let's get into this one. If there's better documentaries on this that you want me to see, either link me directly or tell me the name, and I'll find it on YouTube and we'll go from there. But yeah, let's get into this one. I believe it's Have a Nice Day is my boy's YouTube username, but this comes off of his playlist that he told me to check out because he's like, I got a playlist of fire, my nigga. Like, watch that shit. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna check it out. This is where I did find this, so I didn't just stumble across this motherfucker. So shout out to the homie for having a good compilation of fucking videos.
Hi, my name's Dan Snow, and just before you watch this documentary on real stories, I want to tell you about our new history channel. It's called History Hit TV,
blood.
and it is the world's best history channel.
Okay. I'm an American. I hear History Channel, I think actual, like, television, like TV, like traditional broadcast television. I'm like, nah, I'm not about to shield nothing for the History Channel. Them niggas out of line. But if he's actually doing a History Channel on YouTube, all right, get your shit off.
It's like Netflix, but just for history. So if you're a history fan, whether it's documentaries about the Romans, medieval period, Chinese history, modern history, Second World War, we've got it all. Head over.
I know I keep stopping it, but does anybody watch that nigga on YouTube? He's from the UK, and he does historical inaccuracies in movies, but then like gives you like the actual history on like how shit should have been and all that. I don't know what happened to my boy, but he was killing it. I used to watch that nigga shit. They just like, boy, yeah, these niggas fucking the movie up. They not even doing it right. Real story's better. Ah, god damn it. He did a really, hey, that boy's, I can't even remember his YouTube channel though.
Over to historyhit.tv or follow the link in the description below this video and use the code REALSTORIES for your unbelievable introductory offer. In the meantime, enjoy this video.
"1968 saw the dawn of 30 years of violence in Northern Ireland. The Troubles. At its heart lay two conflicting visions of national identity. Paramilitaries from both sides carried out a campaign of terror that spilled over from Northern Ireland to Great Britain and beyond. Walls and barricades were built to keep the warring factions apart. On Good Friday 1998, a historic
Tony
agreement
Blair
declared that Northern Ireland's troubles were over. But 2 decades on, the legacy of the conflict continues to plague the region. And in some communities, division and suspicion
That shit
still
crazy.
loom large.
This goddamn wall. And we don't want these torn down? What's that wall doing to my property value? Do that shit,
Today, there are
y'all
over
don't care.
100 so-called peace walls in Northern Ireland. Nearly 100 of those are in Belfast.
Jeez, 100 of them
They've
bitches?
become part of the fabric of the place, a must-see attraction for visitors to the city.
That's peak. is it okay to? That just seems weird to tourists to turn somebody's pain in daily life into a tourist attraction. Just seems wild as shit. Am I wrong in thinking this? I'm just overthinking it, and it's just not that deep. I don't know. I might feel a way nigga come over and talk about, oh, in front of my motherfucking wall, and they didn't lick down with my homies right there or something. Like, fuck, nigga, this shit's not for TV, bitch. What? I don't know. I could be overthinking it. This is not my issue. I'm just that. What? That's crazy.
The
Tourist
walls mark a
attraction.
division of Protestant or Unionist and Catholic or Nationalist communities. They also serve as a reminder that peace here is fragile.
You can go around Belfast today and you can see a city like any other city, vibrant, enjoyable, music, gay rights, parades, a really exciting city in a beautiful setting. But the minute you're rooted in those historic working class communities, there are divisions are as strong today, politically, economically, and ideologically than they ever have been.
It was just a normal childhood, as far as I can remember. The only difference is, as I got older, I started to realize that you were near a wall and near conflict. These houses were hit with petrol bombs and paint bombs, golf balls, fireworks, pipe bombs, blast bombs, and it was relentless. Every house was affected in some way or another, where there was absolutely no glass in the windows, and that's what you had to live with.
What the fuck?
Very happy memories of living here, but you always had the sense of a divide. Before the peace lines went up,
There are black people that live there? Is that a thing? Or are these like homogeneous fucking areas of Ireland where it's predominantly white? It's just what it is. Cause I'm just like, what would that be like to be a black Catholic Protestant growing up in this place? Like, boy, it's gonna be long as shit for your ass. God damn.
there was always a division within the mind. Obviously, because it's a small knit area, most of your friends, most of your relationships were within the area. You didn't go outside the area, you know, and that increased obviously once the conflict started because of the fear factor.
You know, we had a choice: the grave or the jail. You're in the moment, you live in it. Fight fire with fire type thing. Do you know what I mean? If they're going to hurt me, I'm going to hurt them. When I think back on that,
Break your heart, don't it?
stupid, naive.
In 1921, Ireland was partitioned between Northern Ireland and the South, which later became the Republic of Ireland. The aim of the Unionist and overwhelmingly Protestant majority in Northern Ireland has been to remain part of the United Kingdom. The nationalist and almost exclusively Catholic minority align themselves more closely to the Republic of Ireland. Whether you're Catholic or Protestant, the conflict isn't rooted in religion, but in a fundamental difference in national identity. Since 1921, there has been sectarian bloodshed. Northern Ireland's darkest chapter began in 1968, the Troubles. 3 decades of violence that claimed 3,500 lives and injured more than 50,000 people. In 1998, the British and Irish governments, along with leaders in Northern Ireland, signed a deal.
What's the feel for Tony Blair? Is he a Margaret Thatcher, that kind of situation? We not really fucking with that nigga. What's going on with this guy? What's the dude put his dick in a pig's mouth? Never remember that guy's name. Always remember his act. Wild thing to fucking admit. He should be telling on themselves. What's wrong with you? Nobody knew that shit until that nigga said that shit out loud. And they sure made sure that my black ass found out about it. I'm not gonna let that nigga live that shit down. You fucking weird. That's weird. But yeah, are we mad at this nigga for being a stooge for the American war? Or what's the situation with this guy? And y'all remember the Dave Chappelle Black Bush skit? Oh, well, they had, was it Jamie Foxx or whoever played Tony Blair? Yeah, it was Jamie Foxx playing Tony Blair.
The Good Friday Agreement would bring an end to the bloodshed.
I remember this. This shit was global news. That's a little nigga.
But decades of division have cast a long shadow, and there's still a culture of us and them. Although the violence has subsided, many new peace walls have been built since the signing of the Good Friday Agreement. Sectarianism has been woven into the fabric of society.
I think that one of the issues that people forget is that when the peace agreement arrived, things didn't just stop and change overnight. This was a society that had been at war, and the divisions between communities remained, and the hostility between communities remained. Those divisions are historical, and those divisions are clearly rooted in the minds of children who grow up. They see the walls, they see the divisions, they see the fences. And that has become institutionalized.
It was a very scary time for people, and you were very suspicious of people. We're a very close community. We all sort of know each other and know of each other. And there was always an extra sense that you had to be aware and cautious of who you were talking to, where you were going, and just have that extra peripheral vision that you took in an awful lot more than what you really should have done.
That's a little tiny ass balcony, boy. You better
Like
be careful.
Any working class area has its own problems, etc. A lot of unemployment within the area. You know, so as a 16-year-old, your choices are: what do? Do you get involved in politics? Do you just let the situation deteriorate? Do you leave the country and go elsewhere, have a life for yourself elsewhere? And that was no 16-year-old or 17-year-old should have to make those decisions, you know.
It's facts.
In October 1968, Northern Ireland witnessed violent clashes between police and protesters, calling for an end to discrimination against Irish Catholics. For many, this marked the beginning of the Troubles. There were exchanges of gunfire and widespread burning of homes and businesses.
Jeez.
Here in the shadow of Clonard Monastery in Belfast, sectarian
It's a
unionists
well-constructed
set
building,
fire to the homes
goddammit. I
of
tell you what.
1,500 Catholic residents of Bombay Street.
Goddamn.
I couldn't believe what was happening. You know, you could see houses, people's homes being burned to the ground. What in under God is happening here? You're just terrified. I have to say, terrified. A friend of mine who was 15 was shot dead.
Following the inferno, the rioting resurrected paramilitary groups on both sides, and the IRA found fertile ground in the ashes of Bombay Street.
Goddamn right, baby. Y'all niggas done violated. I'm outside.
The British Army were deployed onto the streets of Northern Ireland,
What?
and they began erecting the first peace walls.
I wonder if my mama know any of this shit.
Once the British
I gotta
Army was
ask her.
deployed on the streets of Northern Ireland, we moved from a civil conflict into a military conflict. And that upped the stakes, and that led to the next 3 decades of war.
I can remember going to England whenever I was younger. I had an aunt who lived in Liverpool, and I seen the police, and the police didn't have guns. I go, how the fuck are they able to keep the peace with no guns?
Still asking that question over in America. We don't like. I'm a black American, and I'm asking, how are you policing without a gun? I've watched plenty of videos on it. You guys have a lot of escalation tactics. You guys, sometimes there's more of you niggas that are like, yo, there's 5 of us. What the fuck are we doing? Rush this nigga. We don't have a lot of that rush this nigga energy in our police force, because rush my man. Rush that nigga with this bullet. Fuck do you mean? Wrestle with him. He can wrestle for his life. So that's why I'm like, how are you keeping the peace? This is crazy. This is crazy. Now, are there certain yeah, factions within the police that are allowed to fucking like have guns and shit, like Trident and shit. Yeah, all right, niggas is out there, but overall, the regular constable, blood don't got no gun. Nigga got one of them wands and some pepper spray and a taser and his walkie-talkie and a partner. Crazy.
Do you know what I mean? It was totally alien. There was no checkpoints. There was no, where's the soldiers? Do you know what I mean? Because that's what you were used to.
As I always say to people, it's a million times better than what it ever was. It's a sad thing, but probably a good thing as well for Belfast, is that the tourism is constantly growing, you know, and people are truly interested in walls. Say this here's Percy Street, okay? On the street itself, there's a set of gates here that were locked 1969, 1970, and have never opened since. You can see like the razor wire along the top of it, so no one can climb over. So this is Cooper Way. This is the peace wall on the right-hand side. This is the tallest part. It stands approximately 45 foot tall, which is actually 3 times taller than
this cheeky cunt. He's a taxi driver participating in the tourism. He keeps that fare on, and he's really good at talk because he's captivated me. He got me with that. Oh, look at this shit. They ain't opened it in forever, nigga. Isn't that amazing? Motherfucking right it is. And he's like, now look at this tall ass wall. Boy, you gonna run a bill up riding with this nigga. Now here's the finesse though. That nigga's like, yo, for X number, I'll take you around this bitch and give you the real tour. I turn the meter off. Oh my God, this nigga is he's killing it. And he's a black taxi too. These black taxi, I like them. They was cool with me, at least the one that I rode with. Shout out to you, my G. I don't know if you'll ever see this. I don't even remember my guy's name, but if you ever see this, shout out to you, man. You made sure my shit happened.
the famous Berlin Wall. This wall here is built to keep you out, but it's also built at the will of the people. It's the people who live beside it. They want the wall. But it's crazy, isn't it?
What?
It's crazy to think in a modern Western European country or city that we have walls that separate communities, you know?
Ridiculous. That's crazy.
In a
I don't even want to see
society,
that nigga's
you
face.
don't open your blinds in the morning to be faced with a 30-foot fence. The whole area is surrounded by a ring of steel because we're a nationalist area surrounded by unions. Anywhere you want to go, the local amenities, post office, doctor surgery, supermarkets are all in unionist areas. And so you've no choice but to confront whatever fear you may have and go into those areas. I tend not to go into them on foot and avoid them if I can, simply because I fear I might get recognised by someone.
Damn, to be recognized is terrible. That's crazy.
Living with a cage over their backyard. But they were the missiles that were coming at their windows, so they had to be protected. The only way it was felt that you could create a possible level of normality was to create those walls with gates in them, and when the tensions were high, you'd close the gates. When the tensions were not so high, you'd open the gates. And until we get to a point where at all levels those communities feel happy in their own skin and happy to tolerate others who are happy in their own skin, walls will become a form of protection.
Jesus.
I don't know, I had an uncomfortable
way to explain
feeling
it,
that day.
though.
I remember that, an uncomfortable feeling, and I didn't feel it that day.
Yeah, that look pretty. It's green. It's nice. It's crazy.
I remember that, an uncomfortable feeling, and I didn't really know what it was, like a dread.
Derry, Londonderry, was a predominantly Catholic nationalist city that was run by a Protestant unionist minority. In January 1972, 10,000 people marched from the Catholic Bogside area to the city centre, demanding their voices be heard. Kate Nash's father and brother William joined the protest that morning.
There was a knock on my boyfriend's door, and he went to open the door, and I could see from the sitting room, I could see a neighbour of mine, And I knew looking at her face that there was something terrible had happened. And she said to me, she says, I thought my mother had died.
British Army paratroopers had opened fire on the march. 14 unarmed civilians were killed and another 13 injured.
Your brother Wally's been shot, she says, and your father's been shot too, but he's okay. Wally's dead. And like I say, my whole mental, I don't know, I couldn't think straight. I couldn't, wake me up. I kept thinking, this is a nightmare. I have to wake up.
This day would become known as Bloody Sunday. For decades, the British Army insisted that they had fired at armed protesters and maintained that their troops had responded after coming under fire. The people of Catholic Bogside saw it as murder.
The town went silent. The town went silent for 3 days. You wouldn't have heard a bird. Honestly, there wasn't a sound. There just wasn't a sound. It was eerie. But there were thousands and thousands of people there, And it rained. The rain was so heavy, The rain, the heavens opened,
Almost 40 years later, an inquiry found that none of those killed that day in 1972 were armed, and that the killings were unlawful. Bloody Sunday became a pivotal moment in the history of the Troubles. Hostility towards the British Army amongst the nationalist Catholic community rose, and the IRA saw a boost in its popularity. The two sides were pushed further apart.
I'm going to bring you into the heart of the Shankill Road area. And the Shankill Road area is Protestant loyalist area. And once we go in here, you will see murals on the side of people's homes, on the gable walls. Well, they tell the history and the culture of that area you'll go into.
Crazy.
Some of the guys you'll see on the wall are ex-paramilitaries who are now dead, but they're heroes to the people in these areas. See, what you got to remember is that one man's terrorist is another man's hero, or another man's freedom fighter. Over here, you can see on the plaque, over here on the wall, it says UIM, which stands for the Ulster's Young Militants. I heard it being explained one day about those guys, and I thought it was the best explanation I'd ever heard. It's like the Boy Scouts for the Protestant paramilitaries, like the younger generation. If you were below the age of 18, you wanted to join one of these paramilitaries, you were an Ulster Young Militant. And as you drive away from them, they follow you with a gun. We call these guys, the nickname is the Mona Lisas of the Shankill. As you can see, they follow you with a gun. So no matter where you are, they're always pointing the gun at you.
It's crazy to live around some shit like
First thing you're
this.
told when you join the IRA is you're going to have two options in life. You're either going to end up dead or you're going to end up in prison. I was one of the lucky ones. Out of those, even by the age of the sort of 17 or 18, several of my friends have been killed in active service. And
Jesus.
every one of my generation wanted to join the IRA. Looking back on it, out of the soccer team, which I played for at the time, my own wee soccer team, out of 13 of us on the team, 11 of us ended up joining the IRA immediately. Everyone wanted to be part of it.
Young people on both sides of the conflict were recruited into paramilitary organizations. Mark Irvine was one of those teenagers drawn into the violence. He's the son of the late MP David Irvine, former UVF paramilitary bomber who was incarcerated in the notorious Maze prison for 2 years.
I think the first time I sort of
He said that shit like his daddy's resume just gonna ring out for the standard person trying to learn something. Like, it sounds important, but his dad's resume is, he's a prominent figure in the things that are going on with all of these situations, I assume, from the way he said it, and that he's the son of a prominent figure that was caught up in all this.
really became aware of the implications of having a family member who was a former combatant and an ex-prisoner. My father actually sat me down at one point and told me his sort of history and gave me a very rough breakdown of it, I then became much more militant in my thinking than I had been prior, because then I viewed, like, I'm under threat, my family's under threat, and I need to try and sort of do whatever I can to alleviate that threat. Not that I could have done anything, but in my small 15-year-old or 14-year-old mind, I thought that was the smart thing to do.
Having lived through the Troubles, shootings and bombings and killings were something that happened all the time, so you just get used to it. You never really thought for a moment that it was anybody belonging to you.
In October 1993, the Shankill Road bombing was one of the most shocking of the country's troubles. In a plot to assassinate the leadership of the Ulster Defence Association, UDA, believed to be meeting above a fish shop, the IRA bomber, a UDA member, and 8 innocent civilians were killed. Sharon McBride was working in her father's fish shop that day when the bomb exploded prematurely.
I couldn't go to the morgue and identify the body. I just wanted to remember my wife as a beautiful young woman that I left that morning. I was married about 7 years. We had a daughter, which I then had to bring up on my own, which wasn't easy. Sharon was my life at the time. She was just a wonderful woman, a wonderful mother. And in that instant, it was just snatched away from me. Obviously, I was very angry, and there was a lot to think about in terms of what I should do with that anger. I was never really a violent person, so I was never going to go out and seek revenge.
That boy didn't calm down.
As time moved on and I got a bit stronger, and I suppose really the last part of my life now, certainly the last number of years, I've been devoting that to peace and reconciliation and to try to understand where people are coming from that got involved in conflict rather than just pointing the finger and condemning them. And I can only imagine that the 2 young people that murdered my wife, and they were young people, they were 19 years old, so they joined the IRA to do what they did, believing it to be the right thing. I disagree with that. I think it was entirely the wrong thing, but I can understand how if you live in a certain community and you've been brought up a certain way, how these things happen. And I suppose in that sense, they are victims of circumstances. Had they have lived elsewhere in the United Kingdom, they probably wouldn't have gone out and committed that atrocity.
We lived through the Troubles, not that we accepted it. I think the Troubles took a lot of our childhood away.
The way they talk like both sides. Everybody in the situation talks like they have an understanding that, like, circumstantially, we live here, and due to that, niggas is going through a madness. Perfectly. The reason I'm asking my question is, in America, they have no care for the understanding of a person lives near a thing, and that thing influences X decisions tremendously. And that's the part of where I'm just like, they do the whole oh, well, you just bootstrap it and just have a gumption, and where you come from shall have no effect on your life. And I'm just like, imagine telling a motherfucker from over here, oh, just bootstrap it, bro. It's no problem. It's no problem that those people will literally kill you and put bullets in you. Just bootstrap your oppression in fucking any problems that you guys have in your areas, or because this seems like this might it's gonna be hard to get a job. It's gonna be hard to fucking just provide for your family. Like, things are really fucking tough on both sides. So I just don't think the concept of bootstrap your problems is a thing over. So that's why I'm asking. That's my long-winded ass question is the concept of, oh, well, we could just bootstrap this a thing? Because that's how they sweep our problem under the rug over here. Oh, just bootstrap it. Be all right. And that's just a logical fallacy, too. That shit, you can't bootstrap it. It's so stupid.
I think it's affected the generation who grew up through the Troubles. If some parents have been imprisoned and they carry a lot of baggage, and have been affected, and their children have been affected. And I think some kids today still live with those consequences. Their fathers would still hold grudges. They would still be very bitter. They still want to fight and find it hard to change mindsets. But it's the kids that suffer.
See, when you're in it, you're living it. And it's just, it's later. When you're able to look back. Reflection, you know, and then you realize how bad it was.
Driving around the working class areas of Belfast, it's hard to escape the legacy of the Troubles. The gable walls of houses are a canvas for hundreds of murals that promote sectarian beliefs. Young kids play in front of a backdrop of politically charged street art that commemorates the violence and bloodshed of the conflict.
When you look at a mural that has the Grim Reaper walking across and it's opposite a primary school, you know, what is the message those children walk out to every day? People often think when we talk about paramilitarism, we're talking about Irish Republicans, Catholic communities. I'm not. I'm talking about all paramilitary experiences across all communities. And some of the hardest evidence comes from those communities where the former paramilitaries have moved into drugs, moved into cigarette smuggling, moved into all of those kinds of areas. But still, in their communities, not only fly the flags, not only put up offensive paramilitary murals, but actually police and control those communities.
Since the end of the Troubles, paramilitary groups have continued to thrive in Northern Ireland's deprived areas, often targeting vulnerable young people. Janice Beggs, a community youth worker in the Shankill Road area, sees firsthand the impact the division is having on these communities.
There's a hopelessness within young people. They can't get jobs. They're coming out with very poor educational skills. One family could be quite affluent, next door could be in poverty, and that's not just including people who are unemployed. It's people now you're finding who are working people, but the minimum wage isn't sufficient for supplying the needs to meet the family needs.
The walls erected to keep the peace between communities has resulted in more poverty, isolation and despair. Northern Ireland now has the highest suicide rates amongst young people in the whole of the British Isles.
One of the main triggers for young people in particular who decide that life is not worth living is their margin.
I don't just be like, just leave. Is it that hard to leave there? Is it like motherfuckers is stuck? Just completely swallowed? Wouldn't that just be better? I don't actually live there, so that's why I have to ask.
Marginalization. It's that idea that you're living in the moment. The moment is all. There is no future. There is no happiness. But the relationship between drugs and economic marginalization is toxic. And that toxicity spills over into, not as people would have expected, violence and high levels of crime, none of those things. But the way I put it is, when you commit a criminal act as lashing out or to feed a drugs habit, you move that way. When you're totally in despair and the society in which you live offers you nothing, no matter how much you love your mum, your dad, your family, and I've read some of the suicide notes, you come that way. You turn inwards rather than outwards. The anger comes into despair, and despair leads to high levels of young people feeling that they just cannot continue.
I don't know the statistics, but we have witnessed it in the community. We've had 3 of our young kids lose their lives. Sorry. One was really a father. He was going to be a father at 19 and he took his life. Just across the street here he lived. Again, the young kids, some of them, not all of them, again, would be getting involved in drugs. They'd become runners. The paramilitaries would get them in through maybe buying them shoes or giving them money and things like that, and they trap them basically. And then they would run for them, and sometimes it gets to the point where they basically maybe spend the money and they have no way of paying it back, and the only option out is to take their lives.
For nearly 10 years now, Janice has run a cross-community youth centre. She wants to offer an alternative to young people, an opportunity.
So what the paramilitaries are doing are similar to what they say the drugs gang by sending little niggas off to country. Same setup, except in a smaller area. Because now you got to just work for us. But we don't really need to send you nowhere. Or maybe we do. Because like she said, you got runners. Shit, we have you run some shit wherever we tell you, boy.
Opportunity to mix and socialise and to feel safe.
Oh, it's better than what it used to be. Like, I was thinking bad stuff ages ago, and I used to take back in the day, like ecstasy, grass, dope, anything, drugs, just in general. And see, since I came off all that grass, dope and all, I've just seen a brighter future for myself, seeing a good job, seeing what I actually want for the real life in Emery.
There you go, Ethan.
You know what I mean?
Big up yourself, bro.
I love working with kids. Like, that's one thing I do. I actually do like a youth work. I have one on kids, and like we help try and build the 2 communities together and see myself have a good future. So I do working with kids and stuff. So I do. That's the path I want to go.
You just take each day as it comes. It's the community I grew up in. I found it very challenging. All my life I've struggled living here. I pray to God, why walk these streets as a child? Why am I here? But this is my mission field. It is hard, and we have to have hope. We have to believe that there's something better beyond what we were brought up in as children.
Well, shout out to her, man.
My son committed suicide. He was 14. He hung himself.
What the fuck is going
So I have
on?
experience of that epidemic that seems to be overshadowing both communities at the minute. You know. The last thing I would have wanted for him would have been to grow up in the conditions that I did and be confronted with some of the decisions that people of my generation had to make. You don't want that. I have daughters. That was my one and only son, but I don't want that for them. Do you know what I mean? You want them to, if they're doing well at school, and to have a chance in life. Do you know what I mean? Just to have a normal, not with all that madness going on around them, and living in a segregated city, and do you know what I mean? It's not what you would want for your kids.
The Good Friday Peace Agreement of 1998 brought an end to the bloodshed.
Who's this guy? They walking that nigga out like a king. Hold on, who's this guy? Who's blood in the denim jacket? He's like, he got a top shotter. They got this nigga walking out like he is the man. And he out there puff chest with the motherfucking I steal your bitch mustache. Who's this guy?
The Good Friday Peace Agreement of 1998 brought an end to the bloodshed.
Oh my God. He's got the longest motherfucking mullet. You know, in anime, I don't know if you guys know, but in anime, the crazier the hairstyle of the character, if it's one of those like they have powers or whatever, sometimes that it can mean that that character has like a lot of power. This nigga out here with a Samson mane, Jesus.
Saw the release of hundreds of paramilitary prisoners. But for many, the memories of the conflict were too deeply embedded and they couldn't forgive. The Good Friday Agreement ended the conflict, but had little to say on reconciliation and peace building between the two communities. A third of the walls in Belfast have gone up since the ceasefire.
You know, we were living in a peacetime era, so things were supposed to be getting better for us here in North Belfast and better for our children. And then this happened, and this was just something so completely off the radar.
Elaine Burns's two daughters were pupils at the Holy Cross Catholic Primary School for Girls in the Irvine area of North Belfast, one of the most deprived areas of Northern Ireland. In 2001, the Unionist Protestant minority began picketing the school, claiming Catholics were attacking their homes and denying them access to facilities. Week after week, hundreds of protesters tried to stop the schoolgirls and their parents from walking to school through their area. The children were subjected to sectarian abuse, attacked with stones, bricks, fireworks, and urine-filled balloons.
What?
The scenes captured world headlines.
This was absolutely unique.
What the fuck? You got these little kids walking through this shit?
In that this was 4-year-olds to 11-year-old Catholic girls who are defenseless, you know, can't stand up for themselves, and this was pure evil being vented on them, so they were the targets. I don't carry any hatred or anything, and I think that's just been the way we were brought up. But I mean, I'm deeply saddened that it happened, and it's something that is part of, you know, what happened to us. But from bad things, they make you stronger, and ultimately, every generation of a parent wants life to be better for their children. So I am hopeful.
St. Patrick's Day. Today, thousands, young and old, have gathered on the streets of
So that's just a real holiday. It's just some American, so we can get drunk shit. What? Shut up the patty, man.
Belfast to celebrate the patron saint of the Irish.
Well, then, yeah, we got to discuss this then as well. What's up with not that I have an issue. Are they real? They fake? Is it derogatory? Is it a cliche? What's going on with the leprechaun? I don't know. Please explain this to me.
Irish. Associated mainly with the Catholic nationalist community, it was a rare sight during the conflict. Even though it continues to divide opinion, its popularity is growing year on year.
Well, we're just celebrating St. Patrick and just our Irish heritage. And it's just good for the kids to have a bit of fun and enjoy the day.
It's great for the kids, and it's a lovely day for everybody to come together. If we could just get everybody together, I think it would be lovely, but it's getting better every year. I think it's building and it will get there eventually.
I think St. Patrick's Day is kind of, it's a day for everyone. I don't think you need to have any type of flag. I don't think it should be, like the parade's right, it's for everyone.
You let Americans get any say into St. Patrick's Day over there, I promise you, that shit will be the most neutral shit ever. The only people that will have beef is, can I drink more than you? Because I promise you. Or it'll be niggas that wear green and don't wear green. That's literally the beef on St. Patrick's Day. Oh, you don't got green on? I can pinch you now. Not celebrating, my nigga. What are you doing?
Everybody to enjoy, like young children,
it's
older
a day
people.
for everyone. Like I think
a family day out for everybody. It's just nice.
For some, the parade is an opportunity to show solidarity. Since losing his wife Sharon, Alan McBride turned his anger into action and now runs the Wave Trauma Centre in Belfast, where he supports those bereaved or injured by violence.
He gonna beat the shit out of somebody if they fuck with his ass.
Since it
He
was
carrying a
established, Wave has helped an estimated 25,000 people across Northern Ireland.
I'm working at the moment with a group of injured folk who are the most amazing people, most amazing campaigners, people who are the sort of physical manifestation of the conflict here, because they're waking up every day with bodies that don't work, with limbs that are missing. I lost my wife in '93, and I mean, there's not a day goes past when I don't think about her, but you do move on in time, and you meet other people. And when I was remarried again, and but for people who are waking up with their bodies the way they were back then, it is just a reminder back to those days. For them, sometimes the hurt is just too deep, the mistrust is too severe.
Some people in Northern Ireland are hoping that embracing their shared history and culture will build a common ground to help the two communities come together. Here in the Protestant areas of East Belfast, people from across the city come together to celebrate all things Irish, including the language.
Do a wee bit of practice on our items around the room, my galore. Okay, Shingabra. So, Kajation, Graham, Kajation.
I think the language has...
I see why America has just appropriated so much shit from fucking Ireland. If I do a fucking Midsummer's Night fucking Shakespeare, I'm for sure having the fucking fairies speak. It just works. It feels like what the fuck did she just say about this teacup? Her face, what?
So, Kajation, Graham, Kajation.
I think the language has great role
She could be saying that nigga's name for all I know. What?
in breaking down the barriers between people, because it is part of our shared heritage, it is part of our shared history in Northern Ireland, though most people aren't aware of that. And it's just a lovely way to bring people together. It's a very safe way of people getting to know each other, just getting involved in something that they really enjoy and that they can help and encourage each other with.
Hope, Shay, and Cupan. Arish?
It just strengthens friendships and relationships.
Cupan. Why who? Togan Cupan. Kajiran, Ainta.
Linda Irvine belongs to a community not traditionally associated with the Irish language.
Take the cup and make it.
She comes from a prominent unionist family. Her husband, Brian Irvine, is the former leader of the Progressive Unionist Party.
I suppose I've become quite high profile because of my husband's previous history, and that has helped, and it has helped me to speak out. I think one of the most important things is at times there are groups or individuals who want to say, oh, the Irish language, it's all about republicanism or Sinn Féin, and I keep popping my head up and saying, well, actually, we're not Sinn Féin, we're not Republicans, but we love the language belongs to us too.
So, I understand this. She's on the British side, so she's from the Scottish people that came over that are still loyal to Britain. But because she's from fucking Ireland, she has a love for the culture and the place that she's fucking from. So, is that this group? And that's why, what is it, Sinn Féin? I'm not trying to be disrespectful. Whatever she said, that's going to be more so for the people that are on the other side, on the opposition.
But Linda's support for the language has come at great personal cost.
Unfortunately, verbal attacks, mostly on social media through people who are criticising what we do. There have been more personal issues, friends who no longer speak to me because of the stance that I've taken on the language. Acquaintances and different people who would ignore me now in the street and whatnot. So that's not easy, that's difficult, but there you go, what can I do? Exactly. I've taken a stance on the language and I need to be consistent in that, and if some people don't like it, well, it's one of those things.
That's right, you stand on your square.
There's a lot of sort of barricades that are man-made and psychological, and it's trying to sort of overcome them. I think cross-community work is something that's happening here on a number of different levels. I think art is a great barrier breaker, it's a great icebreaker. And what we would do would be try to use it for kids from whatever background.
In 2006, artist Mark became close friends with Danny Devaney. Their friendship angered many in their communities. Danny, a former IRA member and celebrated Irish muralist, was imprisoned in Long Kesh alongside Bobby Sands, one of the 10 Republicans who later died during the 80s hunger strikes. Danny's memorial...
Boy starved himself to death behind the issue? That's a thing? What? What? Jesus Christ. What? Starved himself to death?
Memorial to him is the most photographed mural in Belfast. Danny's memorial to him is the
What's a Gaelgoyer? I don't even know if I'm saying that fucking word right. Sorry, I don't know what that is.
most photographed mural in Belfast.
Is this the Bobby they was talking about in motherfucking Sons of Anarchy too? Shit.
Belfast. Danny and Mark were two artists from opposite sides of the conflict, determined to use art to bridge the divide in their city.
It was a dangerous pursuit. Not everybody might agree with you, and so it was something we thought long and hard about. Neither one of us wanted to put the other one in any type of jeopardy, and we decided it was a risk worth taking. And it's a risk I'm glad I took. And I would dare say Danny would be of the same mind. My enemy became my friend. And that was surreal.
Sectarianism to us, we understand it. It's a vile, hated thing which is used to separate people. It's one of the most evilest things with any society could have injected into it. To try and eradicate that is one of his greatest beliefs and mine, to teach kids at a very early age just to treat everybody as equal and mutually with respect.
Today, Mark and his friend Paul are painting a mural on one of the peace walls that separates the two communities.
Well, that's the Shankill Road. That's the Falls Road. This is no man's land. I probably feel more comfortable here than I do on that side of the fence, or on that side of the fence, because here it doesn't matter what I believe. I'm safe. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's a better place to be. It's just no man's land.
One of the things about the murals over the years is that people have sort of brought our attention to the fact that they believe that the murals have changed over the years. And it just dawned on me, it's not so much that the murals have changed, that people's mindsets have changed, because from the very start, we, as the artists who create those images on the walls, were only reflecting the discussions, the debates which were taking place in our community. Whatever the issues which they were talking about, and let's get up there and make a statement about this.
We were never taught our own history in school. We learnt about the Romans and the Vikings and the Normans and everybody, but absolutely nothing about ourselves. I don't mean this in a condescending or diminutive sort of, or patronising sort of type way, but I could use this medium to teach my community their history, or at least prick curiosity. And I'm quite mindful about what I paint, because I would never ever want the wrong message. So I try to keep it where the message is like it's there and there's no mistaking it. But a lot of it would be about drugs and alcohol abuse, domestic violence, suicide, all of the societal ills.
I'm a Catholic, and to be working with Mark, it's fantastic for me, and I've watched him in these documentaries painting on the walls for years, and it's inspirational that Danny and Mark work together. So it's an aspiration of hope. It's fantastic.
Well, there you are, that answers it, you know. That's what I would hope that we would engender in the young people coming up.
Absolutely.
Today, Mark is continuing to bridge the divide between the communities and is passing on his skills to the next generation of muralists, no matter from which side of the wall they come.
That's crazy ass mural. I love the fact that the art is allowed to just speak, though. We censor so much visual art in America that the fact that niggas just like, yo, there's a wall there, my nigga, go ahead and bang up on that bitch. It's okay. Make sure it's at least quality work. That's all. Feel like that's the bare minimum. Shit better be quality. From there, like, it might get a little bit tacky, but overall, the fact that everybody's like, imagine somebody who's trying to be like, oh, yo, no more murals. We don't want that. Like, what? That's crazy.
Young people across Northern Ireland are still paying the price for the decades of conflict during the Troubles. The Dockers Boxing Club gives them a sense of purpose, self-worth, and a focus for the future. It's one of the few places where they get to mix with kids from the other side.
I started when I was 7 years old, and it was just a way to, keep myself occupied, and, I find it good for making friends. For boxing, obviously all around the world, but here especially, there's lots of trips up and down the country, so you meet lots of new people here.
I've been beating the shit out of niggas.
It's obviously something that brings communities together and allows you to make friends no matter what your background is or where you're from. So I think it's good that way. For these areas, it does get some kids off the street, but at the same time, it just helps them with their discipline and respect each other. And, I think it's good for sort of making kids humble and, mix well with another. So yeah, I would say it does get some kids off the street.
I was very quiet and I didn't really speak to anyone, but since coming here, I've really built my confidence up and I've been talking to more people and trying to fit in with people. I've made a lot of friends, or some people I've never met before, and I've just been coming here and everyone's been greeting me very well and making me feel like I'm a part of the family. And if you were feeling down, everyone would come over and see if you're alright and stuff like that. I feel really proud of myself for coming here and really putting in the work and feeling really good. It's been making me a lot fitter. Well, obviously I'd like to be a pro, but everyone can dream.
Well, shout out to you, little nigga. I hope you knocking niggas out on Saturdays.
In art, sport, language, and culture, a new generation is trying to build bridges across old divides. Here, a shared love of traditional music has drawn musicians and dancers from both communities together.
There's no walls between people when they're engaging in the creative process. It brings people together in a very creative way, in a very nuanced way that you just won't find in any other opportunity. And it helps us realise the shared heritage that we have, particularly when we explore the musical forms that are very, very similar and, as some of the dancers refer to, very traditional, rather unexpectedly traditional.
I really like being part of this group. The music is very different. It's more traditional and it's easy to stay on time with proper musical instruments and with real musicians. I love coming here because no matter what religion you are, music and dance brings you together.
We're going to have some people that take a very Puritan approach. In many ways, we are in the midst of what some commentators would refer to as a culture war in Northern Ireland, and what we're trying to demonstrate here is there's no need to have such a binary approach towards traditions in music and dance, that we can find a middle ground, a creative source of shared experiences. The hope for the future, I suppose we've got two hopes that we share. One is that we can move forward and promote what we're doing here to more audiences further afield as well as locally, and that we can encourage people from our own communities to take that leap of faith and reach out across the divide and engage in these musical encounters.
The desire to create a step change in Northern Ireland is strong, but thoughts of the future must start with today's youth.
It's a recurring theme when you are thinking about the progression of your children and you want to do the very best for them. The absolute key to it all is integrated schools. Absolutely start from the bottom up, from no age, where the kids don't know any differently. And that would defeat anything where they're taught en masse in school that everyone's the same. I would suggest that comes into play before anything else.
From my point of view, truly integrated education is state-sponsored education where religion is removed entirely from the agenda. Absolutely no religion. That is the only way, as far as I'm concerned, where you can break that relationship between religion and domination, if there is a dominant religion in the society, and the marginalization of particular children. To implant that idea of difference creates a dynamic within a society that mitigates entirely against what we're trying to achieve, a tolerant, sharing, understanding society.
The Northern Ireland government have taken the first steps to end segregation and division. They've announced a bold plan to bring down the walls by 2023, a plan that's been received with mixed emotions.
Next
I remember they were building a school around here, and the builders came in, didn't really know the area, and knocked the wall down. You had hundreds of people out on the street. You know, you get that wall up again. There's this false, this sense of, you know, we need that security there. You know, it's in the psyche because of what's been happening generations, you know.
The main thing is changing the mindsets of the people, and that's what needs to be done. We've done surveys recently, and part of those questions would be, do you want to see the peace walls come down? And the percentage was very, very small for the removal of the peace walls. But when they asked the question, what about your grandchildren? Would you like to see the walls down for your grandchildren? They would say yes. But it's how we get there and what you
Just
put in
tear them
place
down. Rip off
to
the
make those
motherfucking
changes.
Band-Aid.
You sort of need to reach a point of maturity to be able to understand and be able to sort of look at your own actions.
Especially when you
And
was a
be
wild ass
critical
little
of
nigga.
them as well. You know, you need to sort of be able to take responsibility for your part in whatever happened. And I think it's only through doing that then you see the gravity of what actually happened, and how important it is then that we don't go down that road again.
All right. That was educational and informative in the way that the Vice documentary just was tonight. I found out a lot more. Obviously, a whole lot of stuff left off. I even watched one guy, just a wild ass man, out here just clipping folks while he was like the undercover police or like a double agent, some shit. That nigga was a wild boy. He had like 30 bodies. What the fuck? Like, it's crazy. But this was actually really good. Thank you to anybody that sat through all of this and my constant stopping, whatever the hell I did. So thank you very much. It is truly appreciated. I just, man, it just, till you really take the time to go learn about some shit, you don't know how deep the shit is. Like, man, this is crazy. So many parallels. I'm just like, I didn't think I'd ever be drawing parallels of a European's experience and being like, how are these niggas in today's time dealing with what I essentially saw Martin Luther and them folks deal with? Like, how did they go to where they have walls and we went to, motherfucker, we gonna go to school, and then 5 years from now, everybody goes to school, even though technically we are currently more segregated now in our schools than ever. We still don't have no walls. outside of like if you live in certain suburbs. I guess our walls are different, and I guess I don't see them as easily because I fucking live here. But it's just, it just seems so crazy. Ah, this is a wild one. This was a wild one. But yeah, thank you very much. I'll see you guys on the next one. I'm out of here.